we always have stick candy underneath the trees too, you know.
What kind of presents did y'all get when y'all were
Oh,
small?
we got all kind of presents. I just can't recall just any. I know I got a doll to way up in the years. I know.
You got a doll?
I was, I don't know. I wasn't 6 yet. That's about the only thing I remember.
We would always get a doll for Christmas. It was not what you call an expensive doll. It was probably the cheapest one you could find. But we got a doll. Charlie and I played a lot of dolls.
Well, there's a lot of memories. It was very important to our parents that it was Santa Claus that brought the Christmas tree. And they kind of, as we got older, they hid that tree. They'd taken it upstairs some way, somehow. We could see the little frizzles of the cedar up on the stairway, and it smelled so good up there. We knew something was up there. And then at night, when we came home from our Christmas program, they would sit there. My dad he always lit a cigar on Christmas Eve. And he would sit there and wait till we go to bed so they could decorate the tree. And then later on, as we were older, they did that during the daytime sometimes. Mother wanted to decorate it before Christmas Eve, so Dad took us to the store. And lo and behold, we was driving along. Here was a man dragging a tree. And Dad said, "Sit down." He didn't want us to know it was humans getting trees. It was supposed to have been Santa Claus getting the tree. Well, anyway, when we got home, the tree was all decorated. And the reason Dad always lit this cigar on Christmas Eve, after church we lit fireworks, like firecrackers, Roman candles. He'd use that cigar to light the stuff.
May I tell that story about you and Lucy's cotton patch?
Ooh.
Well, you can tell about that outhouse, but don't mention my name.
One of my brothers.
You can't make the cameraman laugh. You mind?
And one of the brothers had to go to the outhouse restroom, which is right at the corner of the field. And see, the cotton patch went right up to the outhouse. And we were just minding our business and picking away. All of a sudden, I heard his brother holler. And here he was on top of the outhouse, holding his trousers in his hand, fully clothed from the waist up. And he says, eine Schlange, which in English means a snake, a snake. There was a snake in that toilet and scared him so bad he crawled on top of the toilet. Incidentally, I don't have a birthday with George Washington or Abraham Lincoln, but I do have a birthday with Johann Killia. He's the one that brought the winds over from Germany to serve in Texas, and he's got a birthday on March 22nd, and I'm kind of proud of that.
And March 21st is Bach's birthday?
Yeah.
And is the...
If I'd have been born one day sooner, I'd have been a musician. This way I'll play only dominoes and pinochle.
Now, what did y'all do for fun when y'all were kids? Did y'all, I know y'all had to work in the fields, right?
Ride calves. We had our own home rodeo.
Did you really?
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
We
during
did
cotton
hogs. You want
Charlie
to
and
talk
I,
about
we rode hogs. We couldn't wait till Dad went
Mud
to the
busting.
store so we could go ride those hogs.
Don't get in trouble when he
Oh,
caught you?
did we? Mother seen it and she was rattling that kitchen window to stop it. We had some close calls.
And
Charlie-
Edith, what did you and Grandpa do?
Well, listen, she was not very old yet because I had to wash dishes. See, I wasn't out there, I was washing dishes. And here, she was out there in the hog pen, which was right straight from the kitchen window. And all I could see was her, she had long blonde hair, you know, curly hair too. And those hair would be flying up, that's all I could see.
Oh, I know it's no use, so I'm turning you loose. I'm wasting my tears on you.
My dad had a single-hand shotgun. And I found out, by gosh, you could put a marble in that thing,
A marble?
pull the trigger back, whang, it'd go against the wall.
I had mumps on my wedding day, and only my mother knew it.
How come only your mother knew it?
I just told my mother. I didn't tell her, your mama, my wife, until that night after the wedding was over. I caught the mumps from one of my school pupils. They had them at a picnic, and I caught them from him. And I was coming down with mumps on wedding day, but I wasn't sick a bit. I just finally went to bed after driving 600 miles as a precautionary measure, but I wasn't sick at all. And that's how come I made that other trip then to Serbian, for the centennial. And we went on another trip then.
But didn't you go to Camp Lone Star for
But
your
I heard
honeymoon?
it said that I wasn't the first groom that had mumps there. That happened once before the groom that had mumps on his wedding day. But they didn't tell me who.
But through all this, Edith had the measles and the other 4 didn't get it. But then we all 4 went down at the same time,
Several years later.
years later.
Years later, when I was working out, I was working in Temple. For who was I working? I don't even remember.
Volters.
Anyway, I had to come home and help Mama with
Now,
them.
coming back to this learning how to swim, at the age of 14, I almost drowned it. And when we bought this place, we were by the river, and we did a lot of fishing, Charlie and I. And
Who was seining?
We caught a buffalo once. Charlie had made a homemade dip out of poultry wire, and we caught this big fish, and the river was
24
high.
pounds.
And so here we battled that thing, and he finally grabbed the fish, and I held that dipping net, and he went in with it, and we caught it. Later on,
Scaly
we were
fish.
fishing some more, and he didn't want me to go near the river. 'cause
No,
it
no,
was
we were
high.
seining in the shallow water.
Yeah, but before that, you didn't want me to help run the lines because the river was so high, it was so dangerous. And I was upset, so I hid from him. Then he hollered at me, Lydia, I wouldn't answer. I wouldn't answer. And finally, later on, I paid for it. We were seining for minnows in the river, and we couldn't get none. And I got in deep water. I was going to go for a swim, and I got in a whirlpool.
No, there's no whirlpool.
Suction?
She was going in that deep water. I hollered at her, and she looked back, and then she quit swimming, and all you could see is, and I was thinking about the water.
I paid for what wrong I did him, but he thought that much of me. He grabbed me by the arm, and we went on to the other side.
So he was in the water already too?
No, I was standing
He
in the
was there
water.
with
I was in the shallow part.
And I was on top of the bank. I witnessed it with my own eyes.
And he laughed.
My dad would get upset at me in the summertime. See, at college, we spoke English at college on the campus. English was a language. In the dorm, it was all English, except in German class, that was different. But just, we spoke English all the time. And I'd be in that habit, and I'd come home, and we'd be stacking hay, and I'd take off in English, and it would upset Dad. He said, "Ich habe Deutsch gesprochen, ich meine Muttersprache verachten, But it was just an innocent habit of speaking English, because that's what we did at college. And I forgot I was home in the summer.
No, when we started school, we kind of had to learn how to speak English. We were German.
One other interesting thing that happened here at the Grove, where our schoolhouse used to be, like my grandfather made his own beer in the smokehouse, and so did one of my uncles and his neighbor. And there's Waldemar Hobrach, Waldemar Winkler, and one of the Hobrach boys. They brought that homebrew bootleg to school. They brought it to school, and at recess time they go underneath the school and drink that beer. And finally, I think who squealed on him?
Andrew Hubrach told the teacher.
Anyhow, I heard it said that the teacher asked this boy whether he didn't bring something to school in a bucket. And he said, no, it wasn't 2 buckets.
It was in a gallon bucket. That's what he said.
But anyhow, they drank beer underneath that Lutheran schoolhouse. It's
Charlie, of course, he's the intelligent one of us 3 boys, and he was the one that got robbed of the education. You and I were privileged to be educated.
He helped me go to college.
He put you
and
through
he
college.
says, I
worked my way through it.
I want one of us to amount to something, but you know what? I got the education, but he's the one that amounted to something.
Yeah.
Charlie was quite a fellow, I'll tell you.
He was a good carpenter,
good carpenter, very
and sort of talented
skilled,
music. He
very
transposed music for the trumpet players in the church or whatever?
Oh, he was talented. He was so talented, so talented. Yeah. Whereas I'm not a
Painted
right.
the church steeple?
Yes. Oh, yes. I'm not talented like Charlie was. I'm not a rifle bullet either. I think of myself as a shotgun shell. I go flying off in different things, and I'm a jack of all trades and a master of none. You know? So that's. But those precious childhood memories, I'll tell you what. And then.
I'm surprised
And then-
how much in detail you remember that.
Oh, and then I remember
the
Charlie getting
generalities.
on the organ that's in Mary Jane's house now.
Yeah.
He was fixing to go. You know, he
He played in church one time, didn't he?
Huh?
Did he play in church one time, Charlie?
Yeah, I think so. But he was deferred from the army because John Winkler says, I want this man deferred because my two sons, Edmund and Arnold, are in the army, and you know they needed the farming going. So John Winkler insisted that he be deferred. But Charlie couldn't take that anymore. He says, I've got to go and serve too. He got put in Fort Hood near home, and he'd come home on weekends with his
Every
two
weekend.
buddies. You know, one of them never made it back.
Lindsay, and who was the other guy named? Lindsay or Linz?
I can't remember their names anymore, but I remember those two.
I think one of them was from Montana, wasn't he?
Yes, and one of them didn't come back because what happened was they went to the Italy invasion, you know, and Charlie got some kind of bad sore throat or something and got sick and didn't get to go ship out with him. They was in that battle that, not the Battle of the Bulge, but they were in Italy where we lost so many guys. One of them didn't make it back, and Charlie could have well been one of those. So he got put into a different platoon and ended up going to the Pacific Theater. And there in the Pacific Theater, he went in Okinawa and got in on the final action of World War II before Hiroshima. And that's where he got wounded. And when he came back, one night we were sitting on a fire fishing and stayed out all night by the Leon River there, the Carlisle Slough next to ours. And he got to talking and he had a beer, so he opened up and I asked him about it. And he says, yeah, did you get wounded? He said, yeah. I said, where's your Purple Heart? Oh, I don't know. They lost my records and I care less about that. And I said, well, how'd it happen? He says, well, we were out kind of patrolling it, cleaning up, and I heard a noise behind a bush, and all of a sudden I saw a grenade land next to me, and I hit the ground, and it caught me. I think he said, pointed to his side, you know, or I forget where it was.
We're back.
And he says, and then I just lay there real still, and I took my grenade, and I heard another rustling in the bushes behind me, and I waited quietly, and I pulled the plug, and I kind of released the pin and counted off a second or two so it exploded faster. Then I pulled it tight, and I hurled it right where I heard the noise, and I heard a loud explosion just immediately. And then I laid there for a little while longer, and then I went back and walked around, and there was lying a Japanese officer. How high-ranking was he? Charlie sent home the saber that he took off of him. And the commanding officer said, yeah, you can keep it. And that happens to be a rare saber that only high-ranking Japanese officers got. But I was so distressed about him never getting his Purple Heart. And when I went and had the last visit with Charlie and went to McCloskey Hospital, I don't know what they call the VA hospital up there now, and I asked somebody, I said, how can I get this man's Purple Heart? And this one guy says, here, let him put in touch with this guy and this guy. Then I went through all the red tape with the federal government and the Army and so forth and the Veterans Administration and everything, and jumped all the hoops. And in the meantime, Charlie died on us. Lord took him home to glory. But after post-mortem, we finally got his records uncovered, and I got the Purple Heart and found out that he also had qualified for the bronze medal.
Now, what is a bronze medal for?
Bravery, I guess, I
Yeah.
think, something like that. Yeah, and so that now has been put into Charlie's tombstone, the Purple Heart and that bronze medal in a plexiglass thing, see. Christi Blut und Gerechtigkeit, das ist mein Schmuck und ihren Kleid, damit will ich vor Gott bestehen, wenn ich in Himmel werd eingehen. Jesus, your blood and righteousness, my beauty are, my glorious dress arrayed in which before my God I'll stand when I shall enter the heavenly land. Yeah, he was at Oswald's. We were picking cotton in the river bottom, and Papa said, pick cotton. And then Joe was looking up at the buzzards, and so he started picking a while, and pretty soon everybody, and Papa and one of the big old tall cotton stalks, stripped it off and gave you a smacking with it. And boy, I went to picking. I learned from Charlie and Gilbert's whippings.
Just do